Let's have a look at 2019's History in One Paper 1. Let's go. Which of the following statements most accurately characterizes the religion of the Tainos or the Kalinagos? They were not religious people. That's not true. They worship in large... Oh, I have to get my pencil. They worship in large stone temples. Not true. They had no clear articulated concept of God. Is that true? I don't think that is true. Tobacco smoking formed a part of the religious ritual. Yes. Right? So we have that there. For number 2. Number 1 is a bit iffy. Number 2. Which of the following descriptions is false for the Aztec, Inca, and Maya people? They lack well-organized governments. That is not true. They were all well-organized. For 3. For any one of the following groups, the Kalinago or the Taino or the Tupinamba, which of the below statements is true? Alright, so which of them is true? Not true, not true. Not true. So practice gender division in labor, yes. Number 4, which of the following activities was not a feature of the indigenous mainland American societies? Was not a feature. Monotheism was not a feature. Alright. So number 5, which of the following terms refers to the traditional stories of Norse history, the sagas? Number 6, which of the following were the continental indigenous Americans characterized? So settled agriculture, yes, they had it. They no longer had. Hold on, let me see. Continental indigenous Americans. They did not have that advanced system. So the best one would have been these two, wouldn't they? What does advanced building technology speak to? We'd have to discuss that. Right, but the best answer most likely would have been, let me see, continental indigenous Americans. We don't know the time period. Let me just settle with A for now. Settled agriculture and a nomadic lifestyle though. Do those match? Those don't match. So it might either be B or C, right? Or C, please write your answer in the chat. Alright. 7. The lack of evidence of contact between the people of the Atlantic world and Africa prior to Columbus was mainly related to the lack of oral traditions, lack of anthropological research, unavailability, right, of archaeological findings, or rejection of native writings by Europeans. The lack of evidence. Probably would be the unavailability of archaeological findings, but we know that we saw spearheads and skeletons and stuff like that being found. There are oral traditions, right, of tall black people arriving in the Caribbean. And there were writing systems that were destroyed within the Aztec and within the Aztec area. But this wouldn't be right. Well, it would be a form of writing, hieroglyphics. Okay. So let's say the unavailability of archaeological findings for this one. 8. The most detailed information available to historians on the Vikings has come mainly from the chronicles, written accounts, inscriptions left on rune stones. What would it be? Probably would be the written accounts of the Icelandic sagas. Right? So there are written accounts of them. Originally, they're oral, but there were written accounts of them. 9. The ocean current which possibly assisted the Europeans from reaching the Caribbean islands were the North Equatorial trade winds. So these are them. Right? 10. Which of the following factors accounted for the Spanish conquest of the Inca? Right? So it would be the death of the Sapa Inca. Alright, remember the Sapa Inca died and it left the two brothers to fight against each other. right? The strong resist, and that would lead to Inca civil war, right? Let's see. Accounted for the superior military force by the Spanish. Yes, yes, yes. So 1 and 3, I would believe. 11. The encomienda system was made official. Well, Spanish policy in 1503 pi. So the encomienda system was made official by whom? Can't be these persons. So it would be Nicolas de Obando. 12. The Spanish crown sought to protect the indigenous people of the Greater Antilles by establishing the laws of Burgos and the new laws. Keep that in mind. 13. Bartolome de las Casas associated himself or was associated with the campaign against encomienda system. Right, so we're seeing repeats here, you know. So the campaign, we're seeing repeats coming out here. So the campaign in Central America between 1519 and 1521 was successful mainly because of the guns and horses. The Spanish forces were outnumbered. He acquired guides. So what would be the best answer here? Guns and horses or the guides? So I want you guys to choose between these though. The mainly successful though. Probably would be some persons would choose D, some persons would choose A. Some persons would choose A because of the military advantage, right? And some persons would use D because these guides would have helped in translation for them to form alliances with the indigenous tribes that they form these alliances with to attack the Aztecs, right? So we could look at that. 15. The main reason for the shift of Spanish colonization from the Caribbean to Mexico was the failure of the colonies to produce large quantities of gold. 16. Which of the following was used to classify offspring of mixed unions in Caribbean slave society? These were Creole. Which of the following strategies were used to safeguard white control on plantation societies? So we're seeing encouraging white migration, granting rights to alliances with the Maroons. So the 1 and 2. Well, there were rights that were granted to free blacks. So let's have a look at this. Granting rights to free colored and free blacks. There were some amount of rights. Were they equal? Probably not. So I think D would have been a nice answer here, right? But if you're completely ruling out granting rights to free colored and freed blacks, right? Then you know that A would be your best answer. 18. Why did enslaved Africans dread working in the factory more than cutting cane? These were usually because of gruesome accidents, right? So hot cane juice, boiling pieces was scalding their body, right? Their hands getting cut off by machinery. So we couldn't talk about that. The pen on a sugar plantation was mainly used for what? Extra land supplied for the plantation with livestock such as pigs and farms. A farm supplied by the A pen would have animals in it, right? A holiday bay, no. Livestock farm supplied the planters with animals for the mill for fresh and dried meat. Okay, could be that. So we see many of the names like May Pen and Grant's Pen and all these types of pens across islands like Jamaica, right? They would be characteristics of these historical events. 20. The main factors which determined the allocation of the enslaved men to domestic duties were... So what would it be? Enslaved men to domestic duties. This would probably be their color and their age. The seasoning of newly enslaved Africans took place during the, what would it be? The first month on their stay. Alright, so we have that. So it wouldn't be the first month alone, but it would be a little bit more than that. West Indian planters gave provision grounds to the enslaved mainly to decrease their food expenses. 23, which are the following periods of weakness? So we talked about this, Christmas celebrations, right? 24, which factors best explain the suppression of the 1831 rebellion in Jamaica, right? So the suppression, the strategy of the militia, inadequate strategy of the rebels, as well as the involvement of the Maroons. Would the involvement of the Maroons be here as well? Some Maroons would have been called in. So I think the best explanation would have probably been 1 and 2. But if you're including 3, then it would be D. Right? So remember to drop your answer, A or D, in the comments. The Haitian Revolution was fought mainly because enslaved persons wanted their freedom. Alright, 26. What was the major factor that stirred the Haitian Revolution? Alright, the major factor that stirred it. So the rise of Napoleon in France? No. The support of American plan? No. The support of revolutionaries received from British and Spanish forces? Okay. And the influence of the gens de couleur who served in the American Revolution? It's a major factor that stirred it. That steered it, sorry about that. That steered it. Interesting. I would believe that would be the influence of the gens de couleur, like Lucien Levateur, who worked in the military. So those military persons coming from the American Revolution would be helpful. Would have been helpful, right, with their military experience to shape the Haitian people, right, into a well-oiled machine, right, into a prestigious fighting force. 27. To which European country was Haiti of most important? France. The claim that the reduction of profits from the sugar, this would be the decline thesis. One of the provisions of the amelioration proposals in 1823 was granting freedom to whom? Okay. Restriction of flogging of women. This was an important part of it. Let's look at 30. Which of the following events galvanized the support of the abolitionists? So we're saying that all of them would play a part. 31. Which of the following factors was a consequence of emancipation? Right, so a consequence of emancipation. Increase in sugar, no. Absentee farmers return to doing well. Former enslaved persons become involved in internal marketing, that's true. Division of labor between the plantation and peasant activity. Most of them left the plantation to focus on that activity. So I would believe here, what would be the best thing? The following factor is a consequence of emancipation. What would be the best thing here? Well, I don't think the enslaved were involved in internal marketing before emancipation, so we could talk about that. So that would be out. Increasing exports of sugar, that won't make any sense. Don't think many of the absentee planters would have returned. They leave their overseers. I think D would be the best answer. 32. The most popular occupation of formerly enslaved females were the females. Were they the hucksters or the seamstresses? I think they would be the hucksters. Alright. 33. The main contribution of the peasantry to the Caribbean, this would be diversification. To repeat, have a look at the 2020 paper. I always do papers coming from the latest going down, but at that time I didn't have 2021 and 2022. So hopefully I'll get them to do them. Why did planters in the British Guyana import more indentured laborers than their Jamaican counterparts? Enslaved populations were alright. So the enslaved populations were much smaller in Jamaica. I don't think that is true. Planters were more innovative than those in Jamaica, not sure. The cost of production was higher than in Jamaica, not well. I would believe that more laborers would have left the plantation in Jamaica. So why did British? Oh, why did they import more than Jamaica? Yeah, A would be the best answer. I didn't see that. 35. Indian immigrants came to the Caribbean in 19th century to have all of these. Right? To escape death in the homeland, to escape the poverty and famine in their homeland, and to earn higher wages. 36. Which of the following factors best explains best leans need to swiftly improve fortifications in Haiti? So this was a repeat as well. We know it would be in a fear of imminent invasion by the French. 37. The creation of a just society. This would have been hindered by the forced labor. Right? Which year was Haiti's independence recognized by France? Does anybody know that year? It would be 18 what? Right? So please put it in the chat. It would probably be around 1826. If it's 1825, right, please state so. I think it's around 1826. 39. Which of the following statements best describes the associated statehood in the British colonies in the 20th century? Colonies were both in charge of their internal and foreign policies. British controlled their internal and foreign, both internal and foreign policies. Our colonies were in charge of their foreign policies. No. They're in charge of their internal policies, but Britain was in charge of their foreign policies. I think that would be the best answer. 40. The main reason for the end of diplomatic relations between Cuba and the United States in 1962 was the change to the communist ideology, I would believe. Alright? When was Bay of Pigs invasion? I think the Bay of Pigs invasion would be a bit different. Was it in 1962? It probably would be in 1962. For the Bay of Pigs. Let me think of that. The Bay of Pigs invasion. What was it in 1962? I think the year was 1961, you know. I think it happened I think it was April 17, 1961. Because I did my IAA, not my IA, my CSEC SB on this. So it'd be 1961. So was that a reason? I think it would have been the change of communist ideology, because that would lead to them having suspicions, right? So that communist ideology would have led to the nationalization of Cuban economies, and it would have led to the failure of the Bay of Pigs invasion, which would have led to these types of ruined diplomatic relations, and that would have also led to the United States trade embargo on Cuban sugar. 41. By the 1970s, the major advances in Cuba were the areas of education, and health. We have that there. 42. One of the policies of the Cuban government towards the Caribbean and Latin America during the 1960s and 70s was for the third world nations to achieve liberation. I think those would be the best things. So let me see. Treat of a needs of the region with indifference, isolate the rest of themselves. I think this would be as a third world nations achieving liberation. 43. Which of the following Jamaican political leaders was considered the father of independence? Right, this would be Alexander Bustamante. For 44, the specific action which brought about the Cuban Missile Crisis in 1962 would have been the installation of rockets in Cuba by the Soviet Union. Nikita Khrushchev there. Right, and 45, which of the following territories was not an overseas department of France? We have Haiti. Because when the Département d'Outre-mer was instituted, Haiti was already independent. So remember, any issues with any of the questions or any of the answers, please start a conversation in chat. And some of disputed questions, I ask you guys to share your input, right, on what answer you think is best. So please do that. Thanks.